Oh, just a moment. So in reinforcement learning algorithms, we need to estimate a value function, which is at any state, uh, how good is it for the agent to be at that state? Okay, and how good means this will be in terms of the expected return that one can get from here, and the policy is a mapping from states to probabilities of selecting an action. So once you select an action from a state, then the dynamics of the environment will decide where you go in the next state, right? So that is the P given S and A. So that is not in the agent's control. So that is the environment's control. So it's also not certain. In a very deterministic scenario, that would be certain, right? So given a state and an action, you can say I definitely go there, but it may not be deterministic, so there may be a probability involved. So so that is the dynamics. The policy is what is in agent's control. That means what is the action I'm going to choose, right? So I'll choose my action, and then the rest will be determined by the environment, and that which action I will choose is the policy. So that is the pi. So suppose an agent is following policy pi at time t, then pi a given s is the probability that I'm choosing action a at state equal to s. So the value function of a state under policy pi is the expected return when the agent starts at s and keeps following policy pi. So policy pi, a pi is nothing but another probability distribution, but it is just given a state, probabilities of taking all the actions. So for all states, then we need to define this. For all states, all actions, we need to define pi, and that basically defines your whole pi. Um, so the value function can be then defined as v pi of s is uh, if starting at s, if you follow policy pi, what is the expected return? So that is expected value of gt. Gt is the total reward up to the termination or something, or discounted infinite sum gt, given right now I am at s. And this from the previous thing, we have found the formula that if gamma is the discounting factor, then this is sum over gamma to the power k r t plus k plus 1, given that right now I'm at s. Okay, so this was the value function and the action value function. So there is actually a very important relationship between these two. The action value function is q pi sa. So that is uh, the value function requires you to figure out the expected value over all possible actions I can take right now. The action value function is, suppose you are at s and you are taking an action a, and then you are following policy pi. So you are actually fixing the first step, and then it is same as the value function. So, I mean, basically it's the same as this thing. So it's just putting extra condition here that I'm also fixing that at equal to a. My current action that I'm going to take is a. So this is the action value function. And we looked at the Bellman equation last time. So from the definition, what we can do, we can actually write gt in as this, okay? And then we can actually expand uh, gt plus 1. So this expectation we can actually expand. So the expectation is over all possible actions, right? So over all possible actions, a, okay? Each action has this probability, okay? And then this this reward plus again this whole over all possible all possible probabilities of given s and given a, okay? This is the expected value of gt plus 1. So essentially we are uh, we are actually summing weighted summing, rather weighted by the probabilities, weighted summing the GT plus 1, considering all possible actions and rewards that I can get right now. So average over all possible actions, weighting them according to the probabilities and all possible subsequent states and rewards, right? So this is the Bellman equation. Now note that the Bellman equation will be used all throughout whatever we will do in the next couple of weeks. The note that what this does is this represents the value function of the state now in terms of the value functions of all my next state. I mean, all possible subsequent states. One step, right? So basically, if I'm at some state s equal to, let's say, s0, and then from here, whichever state I can go to, it's actually summing over all of them. So it's actually representing my value function in terms of the next steps value functions. And the next step, of course, can lead me to any of the states depending on the dynamics and the policy. Okay, so this was the backup diagram. Okay. So now the new content starts for today. We'll start with optimal policy. So goal of a good policy is obviously accumulate a lot of reward in the long run, right? So you want to get a lot of reward in the long run, and that means formally the value function should have a high value. Value function is the expected return in the long run, and that should have high value. Now consider two policies, pi and pi prime. The policies are defined by the probabilities of choosing actions, right? So it's possible that at some state pi chooses a better action, in some other state pi prime chooses a better action. What do you mean by better action? The action that will actually, give us better rewards. So then can we actually always say whether a policy is better than the other? No, but we can define a partial order. A partial order means within a set, not all pairs of elements have an order between them. So strict, I mean, yeah, so normally we are used to complete ordering. This is a partial order. And this partial order, we can define it as, say, pi, we will say pi is greater than or equal to pi prime if and only if for all states the value function of v pi is value function following policy pi is greater than or equal to v pi prime s. So that means a policy is greater or better than or equal to another policy if no matter where you are, right? So the past doesn't matter, only the present matters to determine everything. So no matter where you are, which state, whichever state you are, the policy pi will do at least as good as policy pi prime from here. Okay, so that is the ordering between the policies. And of course, I mean, this is a greater than equal to, we will see the strict inequality also soon. So then we can also define an optimal policy, one which is better or equal to all other policies, right? So, which means, yeah, so which means that there is no other policy which is better than this. Okay. So that's what we mean by an optimal policy. We denote it by pi star. Anybody had a question? Okay. So interestingly, there can be more than one optimal policies. Okay. So I'll just leave that to you to find an example. So hint is you can actually define a small MDP, use that backup diagram kind of a thing. And how can two policies be different? Two policies be different if from some state their probabilities of choosing actions are different. If all probabilities are same, pi of a given s, right, are same for all as, then two policies are exactly same. So how can two policies be different if their probabilities of choosing two different choosing actions is different at some state? Just have to make a difference in some state. So sitting somewhere at least, they are likely to take different or like their probabilities of taking actions are different. Now However, both policies can be optimal only if their value functions are still the same. So you'll have to construct an example where, yeah, the action can be different, but the dynamics of the environment is such that no matter what action you take, I mean, no matter what action you take between these differences, your rewards or the next states will not differ, right? So that's one possibility of doing it. Of course, you can spread it out into a series of actions and keep things the same and all, but so essentially you can actually have multiple policies defining different probabilities of taking actions, but the same value function. Okay, so yeah, so the point is, however, they will have the same value function, because if one has a slightly better, slightly different value function, then one is better than the other for that state at least. So we can actually have an optimal policy with higher values at each state, right? So we can, this is then none of them are optimal rather, or at least one of them is not optimal. All right, so this is what we mean by optimal policy. And then we can also define, just like we defined the value function, we can define optimal state value functions, the value function V star of the optimal policies, right? So it's just particularly for the optimal policy, the value function. So V star, then we know, is for any state S, whatever policy pi there can be, V star must be the max of that, right? So V star would actually maximize the value individually in from any state anyway. And similarly, optimal action value function, okay, also Q star SA, and that will also follow the same property, that it's nothing but V and Q, nothing but you are first fixing the first action. So essentially you are fixing the first action, but then onwards you are going to maximize this for all states. Okay. So so the intuition is, from state A's, we can take action A and follow an optimal policy thereafter, right? So we can also write this as Q star SA to be the same formula, expected value of RT plus 1 gamma V star ST plus 1. But given that right now, I'm sorry, this should have been S. I'll correct it later. So ST equal to S and AT equal to A. Okay. So then what would be the Bellman equations of optimality? The Bellman equation for the optimal value function. Okay, so Bellman equation for the optimal value function would be, consider the agent at some state. Okay, so some state is, the value of pi star must be the expected return for the best action from there on, right? So at any state is, just because of this thing, okay, the value of the value of pi star, which is V star, must be the expected return for the best action from there on. That means we can actually look at all possible actions A and compute Q pi star, okay, and take the max of that. So that would be your V star. This we can actually compute as max over all all actions A, the expected value of GT, given ST is equal to S and AT is equal to A, and we can actually keep expanding it. And it's basically, if we expand the final thing, what we get is max A. We sum over all next possible states S prime and rewards this P probability P S prime R S A R plus gamma V star S prime. Okay, so this is the Bellman optimality equations. Okay, any question at this point? The basic takeaway from this is nothing but how we are uh, for any state, we are essentially pointing out that to maximize your returns, you have to maximize your returns at every stage. It's not that you can lose now and do better later, because, well, you could as well do better now. Okay, so that is, if that is the existence of an optimal policy, right? So now let's actually try this on the example that we looked at. So simplified recycling robot. Let's just, yeah. So this is what we had. That the robot needs to collect soda cans in office and put them into the bin. Okay. It runs on a rechargeable battery, and that is one of the main things here. There are two states: high battery or low battery. Three actions. One is look for an empty can, but then if you take that action, what will happen is your battery will drains faster. If you wait, it's like a standby mode kind of a thing. Don't really drain a battery, but there is a small chance that someone may bring an empty can near to you, so you can actually find a can without searching for it. The chance is much lower than the search. So basically, the reward for search will be much higher than reward for wait. And then recharge is go to the home base and get recharged. And we did some action mapping, state action mapping. Okay. So this is kind of our global pie, what all possible policies we can have. So, or rather, we don't need to do more than this kind of a thing. So a low, when the battery is low, we can either still continue searching or wait or go to recharge. When the battery is high, we can search or wait. The probability of recharge is, let's say, 0, because its battery is already high, you don't recharge. Okay. So that was the scenario. And now, uh, yeah, so this was our probability chart. And let's actually, oops, sorry. Yeah, okay, so there is a problem in the animation. So this is the Bellman optimality equation that we have, that we need to look at. So yeah, just read the formulas later. So this is the equation, right? So where we'll just write high, H to be high, L to be low, S to be search, W to be wait, and R to be recharge. Okay, so we just need to write this down for all states. This is for all states S, right? So we need to write this down for all states, and here we have two states. So first, let's do for state high. So we'll actually do this slowly so that we understand exactly what's happening. So look at this here. First, let's understand the formula. Uh, for one particular state, this equation will give the set of equation, and we'll get one equation for one particular state, right? So that equation is, uh, given that I am at this state, if I take these actions, we'll actually maximize this over all possible actions. What is the probability of going to some other state and getting some reward? Okay, so that will be the probability. We'll have to sum over all of that, and the reward plus gamma times V star of the next state. Okay, so let's say for us right now, the state is H high. Okay, and so state is H, and so this is the state is H, action is S, that means search. What is the probability that I go to H? So state H, action search, probability of going to H, I mean remaining high battery basically. So that is this. Then the reward of uh, getting going to H, stay at state S from H, and gamma times V star H, because this is our next step, right? So this is our next state. So this plus gamma times V star H is essentially the value function from the next one, plus the other probability. Okay, so plus the other probability. So we have to sum over all possible combinations here. So the only two possibilities are here. One is state H and state S, right? So the other possibility is, uh, mm, we go to state L, low, uh, from H and by searching. So from high battery, if we keep searching, there is a probability that our battery will become low. And then the reward can be HSL, reward of HSL, and gamma V star L. Okay, so this is one. And then the other side is other action, right? So this we did over the two different states, right? So this is two different states, and now the other action, because we have to take the max over the other action. So the other action is we do wait. We, instead of searching, we do wait. So probability of going to H from H by waiting, and then our HWH gamma V star H plus, by waiting, what is the probability that my battery becomes low, and similarly this. All right. Okay. So this essentially, these two are the exactly this equation uh, written according to our dynamics. Now, because we have only two states, we could actually write this down by hand. If we have in any more realistic scenario, we'll have actually many states, and there will not be, it will not be possible for us to, do this exercise by hand. Okay, so let's actually continue. So what is the probability? Probability of going to H from H by searching. So from H by searching going to H, that probability is alpha, right? So probability of going to the battery remaining high from high by searching, that probability is alpha. So we have an alpha here. The probability of the probability from H, sorry, from H, if I do search, what is the probability that I go to H, and what is my reward then? Sorry, what is the reward if I still go to H? So then the reward is R search. Okay, so which we write as RS. Okay, so that is R search. Okay, plus gamma times V star H. So plus gamma times V star H. So this is the first portion. Then the other thing is, what is the probability that from high by searching I go to low, that is 1 minus alpha. So this is 1 minus alpha. Again, the reward will still be R search. So R search plus gamma times V star L. Now, if you look at the second one, however, the probability of high, then if we wait, the probability that my battery will still be high is 1, right? So by waiting, I don't lose much battery. So that probability is 1. Reward will be RW, R wait, plus gamma times V star H. My next state is also H. Plus, if my battery is high, I wait, the probability that my battery drains to low is 0. So plus 0. The second portion is just 0. So these two, then if we simplify, we actually get this thing, RS plus gamma times this quantity. And this quantity is RW plus this. Okay. So this is the Bellman equation for the state H. Let's similarly do it for the state.
Sir,
Yes, question?
sir, there should be HWL. Isn't it HWL in the second equation of the first line?
Where?
In where your mouse pointer was.
The reward?
Yeah.
Oh, just a moment. So it's actually the convention. So let me just check whether I have done it right. So the reward is this should be the reward that I am at a state H, and I take action S and go to state. This one should be HW, right? Yeah, this is HW. Yeah, so let me actually just correct it right now. It's a lot of LaTeX typing, right? So, but is this sequence correct? Yeah, the sequence is correct because my last state is L. Okay, just a moment. So this thing should be H. This is the last one before just gamma. HW. Yeah, right.
And sir, one more thing.
Yeah.
Like here, we also need to compute V star of H and V star of L, right? So how we are going to compute that?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to come to that. So V star of H and V star L. Just bear with me. We will come to that. Okay. So so this is the equation for V star. So rather I'll
Sir, start the sharing.
Oh, I haven't started. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Now. Yeah, so V star H and V star L, we are actually going to get two equations for the two things. So our goal, so what is the Bellman equation? The Bellman equation is an equation for the value function. And the Bellman optimality equation is the equation for the value function for the optimal policy. So the equation defines what the value function is. So we'll actually, if we solve these equations, we are going to get what these are. Okay. So the equation is V star H and this, but then just hold on for a minute. There are a lot of things which look like variables, but not all of them are variables. Okay, we'll just discuss in a while. So for the low thing also, for the low thing, however, there are three possible actions. So let me just detail out one of them. One possible action is search, right? So from low, I search and my state becomes high. Okay, I mean, let's say there is a probability low, search, state becomes high. Yeah, there is a probability, but we remember what that is, right? So from low to search, my battery cannot automatically become high. Only possibility is that I become dead. Somebody comes and rescues me and puts me on recharge. So then the reward will be actually very bad. Okay, so then reward of that plus gamma. So the same way I just have the equations. Okay, so max of this. Now if I write it down, the probability low search high is 1 minus beta. The reward is -3 plus gamma V star H plus I don't become my battery doesn't become high. So that probability is beta times R search plus gamma V star L. Right? And similarly, you can actually just verify for yourselves that this will be the case. I hope I have correctly. Oh, there is a mistake here. I think this should be R, right? Yeah, this should be R.
Recharge.
Recharge, right? This should be R. Yeah. Just a moment again. So the last one.
And sir, also here we are computing V star of L, right? It is written V star of H.
Oh yes. It is V star of L. Right. All right. So let me now again share. Right. So now it's all correct. Yeah. So it will look something like this. So now what we have then is we have these two set of equations, and they're actually non-linear because there is a max. Right. So, but what are the unknowns and what are the knowns here? Okay. So what are the unknowns and what are the knowns? So we can actually the rewards. If we know the dynamics of the system, then we know the rewards for going to some state and stuff like that, right? Obviously going to reward of searching and waiting, recharge, there will not be any reward, so it's not there. And these parameters, right? So alpha, beta, they're the probabilities and the gamma discount factor. So if we fix all of them, then what we have is we have two nonlinear equations with only two unknowns, that is V star H and V star L. So there will be V star H equal to, this is a number, right? Gamma is a number. So V star, this will be max of some number, this is also a number. So V star H plus 1 minus alpha V star L, right? So similarly here also you have only V star H. Here also you have V star H and V star L. You have a V star L and a V star H. So essentially everything else are just numbers. So these are they're not quadratic, but they are not linear, right? Because there is a max there. Okay, so that's what we have. So essentially Bellman optimality equations. I mean, in case you can actually enumerate all of them, they will give you almost, I mean, the equations which look like linear, but there will be non-linearity in terms of this max. Okay, so so then how do we find the optimal policy? Right. So one approach would be just solve the Bellman equations, right? So you solve the Bellman equations. The problem with that would be that to do that, we need to know the exact dynamics of the environment. For now, however, in the next thing that we are going to see, we will assume that we know the dynamics, and then afterwards we'll leave that assumption and then we'll go into more statistical methods. So Obviously, you need to know the dynamics of the environment. That means the function P and the rewards, particularly. In reality, however, that doesn't happen. In reality, if you are an agent, after you get the reward, you know what is the reward you got, but you don't know unless you have tried it out, you wouldn't know it, right? So, or you don't know exactly the reward dynamics. You only get a sample of that, right? So just like we saw in the greedy epsilon greedy approach in the first chapter. And second thing is it has to be a Markov, it has to be a MDP kind of a thing. Well, that may be okay, but the final problem is exactly solving this using an equation solver can be so expensive that you actually cannot do it. So especially this particular example, we had only two states. In any reasonably complex game, there will be 2 to the power many states. I mean, if you think about anything, right, chess or uh, any card game or anything like that, there will be huge number of states, right, exponential number of states, and then solving this will be totally out of question. Okay, so what we will do is, yeah, let's actually go to that. We will okay. Yeah, so uh, we will quickly discuss the dynamic programming approach for the policy, finding a policy, finding an optimal policy in today. I think we can spend around whatever, I think we'll make around 20-25 minutes more. So we can do that. And then from the next class, we will go on to more practical approaches. Oops, forget that cross for now. There will be a thing which I'm trying to cross out here. Okay, so policy, so policy evaluation is, so what we need to know, what we need to do is we need to find a policy that will generate a high reward in the long run. And what we can do is we can, to do that, we need to determine how good a policy pi is, right? Okay, so in other words, we need to estimate or compute v pi. How do we do that? One possibility is Bellman equation. Right? So this is the Bellman equation. And assume if we know the dynamics of the environment, then given pi, given a policy, the p and gamma, what we can do is we can use an equation solver, and then we know v pi. Now, this is not what we discussed in the last slide, where we said, how do we find the optimal policy? For the optimal policy, we can actually have the Bellman equation of optimality and try to solve it. Well, that's also bad. And even this will not be so good, right? So basically, equation solver for any policy also will not be good, even if you know the policy clearly. The other approaches, so what we will do is we will look at other approaches for evaluating a policy. Essentially, what is the goal here? The goal is, suppose we have defined a policy, suppose we know a policy, okay? How good is my policy? Okay, so that's what we want to do. Now, what we do is we initialize for any policy pi, we initialize v0s for all s arbitrarily. And for the terminal states, we'll assume episodic tasks here so that there is a terminal state. So after the terminal state, we don't go anywhere, it kind of resets. So starting from the terminal state, the eventual reward is 0. So that we'll set to 0. But for all other states, we randomly initialize v0s. Obviously, that's not going to be the actual value. Then what we do, we use the Bellman equation as an update rule. So this is the Bellman equation. This is the Bellman equation in case we actually say v pi s, and then here also we have v pi s. But what we are actually doing is we are using pi just to get the probabilities of my actions. Okay, and so initially our dynamics are given by, sorry, our value functions are given by my arbitrary initialization. So for all state S, I have some V0 S prime. So for all state S prime, I have some V0 S prime. Okay. And then what we do, we compute this and we update. So we sum it over weighted sum over the probabilities for S, and we update Vk plus 1 S. Okay. And we keep iterating. So actually it can be shown that if we keep iterating like this for all states, then Vk, basically we compute the Vk S for all states, then from there we compute Vk plus 1 S for all states and so on. Then using this probability pi, then what happens is Vk S converges to V pi S as k goes to infinity. Okay. So it's actually a little bit complicated statistical proof, so we'll leave it out here. But there is a reference where the details are given. Now, the intuition is the following. Intuition is at each step, what we look at is the expected update. Okay, so intuitively you can think of this as you can draw an analogy from this to our page rank convergence kind of a thing. So at each step we perform an expected update, and what is this reward? This reward is for, we are summing over all rewards and all probabilities of getting that reward and so on. So the expected immediate reward from the old values of the successor state. And this we sum over all of them, also sum over all actions probabilities, right? So essentially, being at a state, we are actually updating with the expected immediate reward from the old values of the successor state, more like, you know, propagating reward kind of a thing. Okay, so that's how essentially that's how essentially we can find out the value function for a policy starting arbitrarily anywhere. So starting arbitrarily anywhere, then Vks will converge to V pi s as k goes to infinity. But obviously in implementation, we will not run up to infinite number of iterations. Just like we take some threshold. So we take some error threshold, and then iteratively update from k is equal to 0, iteration number is equal to 0. We'll keep updating then Vk s, then Vk plus 1 s, and so on. And we'll compute the how much has my value function changed for every state. And let's take the maximum over that and define that to be delta. Whenever the delta is less than some threshold that we have decided on, we'll stop. So it is basically similar to any kind of convergence implementation that we want to do. So this is the iterative policy evaluation. This just gives you how, if you know a policy, that means given a state, the probabilities of choosing actions, then how do you determine what would be the value function of the policy at every state? That means for every state from here, if I follow the policy, what is my expected return? Now, there are two ways of doing this. One is synchronous and another is asynchronous. So synchronous way would be keep two arrays. Okay, so keep two arrays. The old values, so we first started with V0, right? So V0 is the 0th iteration for all states. So old values are used to compute all new values. So two arrays, one is for old values, one is for new values. You take all your old values, okay, all the states. Now, remember that from this formula, to compute for some particular state S, you need to know the value function for all other states. I mean, all states actually, all old values, right? So all old values you need to compute the new value of a state. Or that depends also on the dynamics. Some of the probabilities may be 0 so that there is no dependency. So the old values are used to compute all the new values. Once all the new values are computed, then your iteration has gone to the next iteration, right? So if k has become k plus 1, then you swap the array. So then your new values become the old values. Then you again start with an empty new value. Now asynchronous is, you don't keep two arrays. you keep one array only and do in place update. Okay, so suppose let's just look at an example. Suppose we have 5 states. Okay, is equal to 1 2 3 4 5, and we initially set v0 of s to be 0 for all of the states. Okay, so for all of them, our v0 is, let's say, 0, initialize somehow. So the synchronous method would do the following. From v01, v02, v03, v04, v05, using the formula, we'll compute v1s. v1s for all s, that means v1 1, v1 2, v1 3, right? So for all states, we'll compute the v1. So we don't change them. This is a separate array. We compute our full v1 array. So this is called one sweep. Okay, so this is called one sweep. So over all states. The next step is, now we have our v1s. We use all of them and we compute the v2 again for all states. So v2 1, v2 2, v2 3, and so on. Okay, so this is how we go on and on. This is the synchronous method. The asynchronous method is, we have initially v0, 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 v0. So this is our array, right? Initialization. From here, we can compute v1 of one of the states, any state. But we don't compute for all states, okay? Not for the other states. Only v1, only the value v1 for one state. Then we update this v1 in place of v0 here itself. So in place, we update our values. So when we come to compute v1 of the state 2, we're actually using v1 of 1 and then v0s of others, right? So we're actually not using v0, the initial value of the state 1, to compute the next value of state 2. And when you, let's say, compute v1 of 3, we have already updated v1 of 2 also. So we actually have v1 1, v1, v1 2, and so on and so on. Now, this I have shown in the order that first we compute the value for 1, then for 2, and then for 3. But I mean, asynchronous, you actually don't have to do it. There is no particular order. So you can actually keep doing in any order. And however, theoretically, the asynchronous method must continue to update all states to converge correctly, which means that this any order thing, if you do it in some order so that some states you don't even update, some states remain at 0, v0, or so on, then it will not converge. In fact, it is not even enough to update the states once or twice. The theory of convergence here is that you must update all the values of all states infinitely many times to have that thing that vk converges to v pi for k goes to infinity, right? So k goes to infinity means in that the update of every value also has to happen infinitely many times. So every state also has to happen infinitely many times. Obviously, the assumption is that there are finitely many states, and if there are infinitely many iterations, then there are finitely many states, so there should be infinitely many updates for all states as well. So basically, you cannot leave out any state from that, then it will not converge. Anyway, so that's the theoretical part, but in practice, obviously, you will not go to infinity. You will run a few iterations and stop. And when your error, when the value is not changing too much, so then what happens is this asynchronous thing converges much faster. So analogy, you can draw analogy from this to like, full batch gradient descent to a stochastic or mini batch gradient descent, and all those things are similar things, right? I mean, this is analogous, not mathematically similar, but that's what happens. So you come out of a theoretical guarantee, but you do things in practice which will give you much faster jumps. Okay, so basically we can look at it pictorially a bit this way. Now this animation is not that good that I have prepared, so that's why I kept the picture at the end. So this is your old array initialized. So using all the states, you compute this, and so on, right? So this is your new, and then your old becomes new. Sorry, new becomes old, right? So then you do it again. The asynchronous piece is you keep updating in place. Any question immediately? Okay. So now so this was policy evaluation. We haven't really gone any further to change our policy. We have just said, okay, how do we know how good is my policy? That means how do you know what is the value of my policy? But then that's not enough, because we need to also find better policies. So to find better policies, uh, the the way is we need to improve our policy. So recall the partial order between policies, right? So we talked about it, that pi is less than equal to pi prime if the value v pi s is less than equal to v pi prime s for all states. Now, policy improvement is also called policy control, is the process of improving a policy. What is the approach? For every state, iteratively improve the policy. So suppose you have this now, uh, and suppose this is your policy pi. So this is a value, this is a value function, so v pi. Now here obviously I have drawn it like a curve, as if each state follows from one another. You just, intuitively think of that is not. Okay, so, suppose the states are really different. I mean, you can think of this as a bar graph also. Okay, so it's just, suppose there are lots of states and they are like this, but there is no reason it should be such a smooth curve like this. It's just for intuition. So this is not a mathematical curve. So another policy pi prime, it can be almost same as pi for many states, but can be slightly more than pi prime for some states. So then pi prime is strictly greater than pi, right? If there is even one state for which it has a strictly better value, and even for other states, if the value is the same, then pi prime is strictly better than pi. And we can actually, so approach is we will actually keep doing this. We'll improve policies. How we will see. And once what will happen is, when we cannot improve it any further, that means by the approach we are trying to improve, if we see that it remains here in itself, then we would have reached the optimal policy pi star. Okay, so this is obviously the high level description of the approach. Now, policy evaluation and policy control, I mean, they're actually complementary, right? You need both. So policy control obviously is essential for better learning. You have to do the policy control, but policy evaluation is a necessary step to do the policy control, and we'll see why in the formulas in a while. So to do this, we need to first look at the policy improvement theorem. It's just, we have seen this actually, we'll just formalize what we have seen. So recall that q pi sa, so the value function is v pi of s, because the policy pi determines what action you're going to take next. Q pi is, well, you will follow policy pi, but for now, take action A. Take action A, and from there on, follow policy pi, right? So basically, I'm giving you a head start, and that is action A. So that is that. So then whatever value you get, that is your q pi sa, right? So that is the action value function. So suppose q pi s pi prime s is better than q pi s pi s. Now, what does this mean? What is pi prime s? Remember, pi is just our policy, which means some pi or pi prime is just a policy, which means this decides what action you are taking, right? Now, obviously, this is a probability distribution. So, in other words, it's a slight, abuse of notation, because pi we say is pi of a given s. So pi of taking the probability of taking action A given S, and instead we are just saying pi prime S, which means that it's one instance of it or something like that. So basically what we mean is, this is value of taking the first action according to policy pi prime and then following policy pi. Okay, so in other words, you will actually have to sum it over for all actions according to the probabilities defined by pi prime. So that is the value of taking the first action according to policy pi. So, and then policy, policy pi prime and then policy pi, and this is nothing but value of the following policy pi. So this is okay. First also on the first action also you take by policy pi, and then also you take policy pi. So this is our v pi s. Now if this value is greater than equal to this value, that means my first action of not going by policy pi but rather going by policy pi prime has been beneficial. Okay, I mean greater than equal to for all states means at least for some I mean what we are looking at is for some state it is more. We are not looking at a complete equality, then we don't actually gain anything. So then pi prime must be better than pi. Okay, and we can say pi prime is greater than equal to pi. Also obviously if there is at least one state for which we have a strict greater than inequality, then we can say pi prime is greater than pi. Now if this happens, okay, so if this happens, if we can find from sitting at policy pi, or rather knowing policy pi, if we can find another policy pi prime such that taking one action, the first action according to pi prime will give us a better reward, then we will change our policy pi to pi prime. So that's a greedy approach actually. Why is it a greedy approach? Because we are only looking at the improving the first step. We'll improve the first step and then obviously compute the value. So let's look at that. So what we are going to do is, suppose we are at state S, and these are the next possible states. So suppose we are taking an action based on policy pi, and then we'll follow policy pi, and that will give us this return q pi s, that is basically v pi of s. Instead, if we take a different action, basically same as what I described in the previous slide, if we take an action A which is different, which is according to a different policy, and then what we get is q pi s pi prime s. Now if this is more than this, right, so if q prime s of taking action A, okay, then following policy pi gives us a clearly bigger expected reward than q pi s for some state s, at least one state s, and is not less than the left side is not less than the right side for all other states basically. So greater than equal to all over, but at least for one state it has to be a greater than. Then it would be better to take action A in this step instead of following policy pi all throughout. So then we can actually change our policy just for this particular step. So that means for state S, we'll change our pi and we'll make it A. So greedy approach for policy improvement would be pi prime S will be defined as, so this is iteration, okay, so this is update of a policy or improvement of a policy, argmax A, the A for which this is maximized, right, argmax A q pi sa for all states S. Okay, so this is basically our greedy approach. Then we have now looked at policy evaluation and policy improvement. Putting them together, what we get is the greedy approach will define a new policy. So it will define a new policy pi prime s, but my value function is still based on the old policy pi, right? So what we need to do, the greedy approach defines a new policy, but the value function of that policy is still not known. So the approach is we alternate between evaluation and improvement. So something like this. We start with a pi 0, some policy pi 0. We evaluate, we get v pi 0. Unless we get v pi 0, we cannot compute this stuff, right? So we cannot compute this stuff. Even this, right? Even this is computed from v pi 0 by the Bellman equations. So once we get v pi 0, then we can do the improvement step, and we update to a policy pi 1. Once we get pi 1, we have to evaluate to get v pi 1. Then again we improve and so on. And obviously there will be a time when I don't improve anymore, and that will be my optimal policy. Now, when the policy cannot be improved any further, then it has reached the optimal policy pi star. Okay, so yeah, so that's all. That's what I wanted to cover today. I'll give you one or two remarks. So these are obviously the book, plus you can also read up this post. This is useful. So as you have done dynamic programming before in your algorithms course, what you see is that these things are essentially based on dynamic programming, right? So this iterative policy improvement, one policy pi 1 is defined on policy pi 0, right? And similarly the evaluation of a policy also, right? Basically these are based on dynamic programming. However, for this, the problem is we need to know the dynamics of the environment, the p function p. And that's why dynamic programming, the ideas are very important, because whatever other approaches are there, they actually use these ideas. But just the dynamic programming as this policy evaluation and iteration vanilla as this are not used in practice. All right. So from the next class, we will see sample based policy evaluation techniques. So essentially, we will first do Monte Carlo and then temporal difference based things. Okay. So yeah. So any question immediately?
Sir, it is similar to that Q-learning thing, right?
Yes, yes, yes. We are going to get to Q learning. Have you done Q learning?
Actually, for my project, I have learned that thing.
Okay, you have
Q-learning.
done it, but not in the course, right?
No, not in the course.
Right, right. Essentially, basically we will get to Q learning, that is temporal difference learning. Okay, so now let me stop the recording. So that's it for the class.